Welcome to the Luna Holistic Podcast. I'm your host, Geneva Robbins, and every month on this podcast, we'll talk about Reiki, as well as answering your questions on all things spiritual. We are gratefully located in Calgary in Treaty 7 territory. Thank you all and welcome to the show. Hello and welcome to the Luna Holistic Podcast. My name is Geneva and I have Angela Hogeveen here with me. Say hi, Angela.
Hi, everyone.
Good to have you here. We're going to talk about something that just moments ago you said was imperative. It is not optional, and it is reframing. Reframing is your superpower. And I love this topic. I've been thinking about it a lot since we concocted it as an episode option. And we use it all of the time in Reiki. So if any of our people are Reiki practitioners or energetic healers, intention setting is a huge part of Reiki and also just part of mental health, part of seeing things in a new light and sort of loosening up that death grip our brains have sometimes on negativity, that negativity spiral and bias that can keep us stuck in some really painful old thoughts. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be chatting about today. Before we jump in, we'll do our collective breath of gratitude, a little mini meditation. So you can gently close your eyes and just take a deep sigh of relief, allowing your energy to come back to you. And big exhale, let go of everyone else's stuff. So if you have any energy that belongs to anyone else, just take a big sigh of relief and just let that all go to the light. Let it all disperse into the earth. And just sending some gratitude into whatever experience you're in right now. Even if it's troubling or there's some deep concerns for yourself or the world, just wrapping it all up in a blanket of comfort and love. Just extending that gratitude deep into the earth, noticing it stretch out in all directions around you. And then notice that gratitude rebound and flow back, supporting you in every breath and every step. And when you're ready, you can wiggle your fingers and toes, gently open your eyes. Yay! Welcome. Hi, Angela.
Hi.
I was thinking about it. It was like meditation is a form of reframing, you know? It just gives you, or maybe it's easier to access that shift in thinking that changes your experience about something when you're calmer. So when we're really heightened or agitated, like my fire alarm went off this morning at 4 a.m., it's pretty hard to reframe that moment right when you're in that acute sort of thing that you need to manage, make sure there's nothing's on, nothing's smoldering, nothing's smoking, we're in response mode. Those are moments where you just have to take action and you have to just keep on moving forward. But as soon as things can settle and you get a few more hours of sleep, I think those are good times to start being curious about the deeper meanings, about the benefits, about what you can learn from an experience, which I think is important. But I'm curious, I know reframing has been massive for you, but what's been your relationship with reframing? Or maybe you can explain what reframing means to you or how you would define it.
Thinking about reframing these past few days, I realized just how big and how important it is. I had a recent experience where I was home in Toronto for a few weeks or a couple of weeks, and I was surprised at how sad I was to leave. I still have lots of family and friends there, and that sadness, that deep sadness about leaving hasn't happened to me in a long time. I've been out west for 20 years now. So that led to thoughts of should I move back? And I could feel myself going down that spiral of just being sad and getting depressed and trying to figure out what I should do. And I was texting with a girlfriend in Toronto and I shared just how sad I was feeling. And she sent me a text that I will read to you that completely changed my line of thinking and my thoughts. She said, take comfort in the fact that you have two great living places with lots of people who love you and want to be around you. And that's not nothing. And that shifted everything where I immediately, and this wasn't even almost a thinking thing, it was a feeling thing where I'm like, you know what, you are right. I should be grateful that I do have these two places rather than sad, feeling like I need to pick one or the other. And it, as I say, it completely changed my outlook and my perspective on it. And that to me is a reframe because the circumstances didn't change, but how I think about the circumstances changed. And I went from a negative to a positive,
In
where
just like a second, which is just the
it,
power of it.
oh,
It's like, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way.
yes,
Like when sometimes it's like we need somebody who's standing back who can see the full picture is like, oh, you're not seeing what I'm seeing, which is you have love over here and you have love over there. And it's like, and it what's interesting is it doesn't stop the sadness. It's like the sadness is still cared for, but one thing you and I were talking about is like the reframe does is it sort of loosens your grip on the all or nothing thinking. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I am sad to leave the people in Toronto, and know that I'm sad because I love them. So maybe I want to plan more trips or I want to do some more FaceTime calls with your grandma, like those kinds of things where it puts you in a state of action versus a state of like, here's this thing I can't change. I'm stuck with it. It's just going to be there forever. Or I have to make a drastic choice, but then I would miss the people in Calgary if I moved back to Toronto, and then I'm stuck. Either way, there's no good option, or I can move to the middle and have nobody there. I could go
right.
to Winnipeg and and then try to, but I know you and you would find place if you lived in the middle to reduce your travel costs. Then you would have 3 places where people loved you, and you'd feel like you'd wanted to be in more than one place at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we have talked about this before and did a podcast before that two things can be true at the same time. That, like you said, we do often have that all or nothing and it can get confusing. But yes, I can be sad, but still have gratitude and appreciate it all.
I think of it as like each situation is complex, right? Like it's not all one thing. Our minds can latch on to one aspect of a scenario and kind of refuse to look at any of the others. So it's not the same thing as like, what some people call toxic positivity, where you're just like, I'm not going to address the sadness. I'm going to just smother it down and put plaster on a happy face and just force myself into gratitude, which isn't at all what it sounds like has happened, the gratitude and the love was there, which is why you had access to it in an instant. You do have love and gratitude. And so all that happened was you have sadness, you have love, you have gratitude, you have probably like also there's irritation and there's impatience and there's humor and there's when you think of each situation, there's so many different aspects to it. But the issue is that we get fixated usually on the negative one because our brains have this negativity bias that helps us scan for danger. And so by just relaxing a little bit and sort of thinking about like how else could I see this or could is it possible to see this in a positive light? And for me that's my mental health safety blanket. I have a brain that if I don't pull myself away from a negative thought, then it will fairly steadily and quite strongly draw me into a state of deep depression. So I actually have to put active effort to point myself to the light. I think of like depression as like this like sinkhole pit that has like it's flat ground at the top and then it like dips down to this like never-ending vortex of despair. and
Mm-hmm.
and there's this point where I'm on this slippery slope, and I think of it as like walking towards the a steep edge and all of these like signs of like, "Go back, it's getting slippery," and like and then there's like sort of these red flags to mark, like, if you go past this point, you won't be able to stop the tumble. And so I have sort of in my mind sort of these like red like danger zone thoughts that I
Mm-hmm.
need to
Mm-hmm.
very quickly start looking for the light and turn back and start walking uphill rather than downhill. Because walking downhill for me, and it's very, very, very okay to honestly acknowledge what you're feeling, and I think it's really healthy to meet whatever you're feeling with space and grace.
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends on your nervous system, and everybody is different, but for me, what has helped is, positive affirmations, and then also I look for the lessons in every
Mm-hmm.
experience. Like even in the most horrible things, like how could I take this and look for the good in it? How could I see the positives? Even if I think the bedrock is always like in any experience, the good in it is compassion. Like you're learning compassion that's going to support you when you're helping other people. It's like, now I know what that is like. So now I can use that to create space and grace for other people who might be experiencing the same thing. What are you thinking about all of that?
Yeah, do you know that for me, and I think for a lot of people, is where therapy helps, where talk therapy helps, is just like you said earlier, that often it's really difficult for us to reframe because we're stuck in either that negative loop or we just can't see a different perspective on our situation. And when someone from the outside comes in, like a friend or a therapist, and they see maybe the bigger picture and can help you just see things differently. And I also had a recent experience where you said that it's a lesson or a learning experience where I was texting with someone and I was meeting them shortly. And I was just getting so frustrated with them because I felt like you're not even reading my text. You're asking me these same questions over and over. Anyway, and then as I was waiting for them to show up, I had a choice of really getting deep into that frustration or letting it go. And what I kept saying to myself is, this is a lesson. This is a lesson for me to not go deep into my frustration, to try and let it go. And again, I was still frustrated, but I was focusing on just breathing, letting it go, and having the understanding maybe they're really frustrated, they're running late, and trying to not excuse their behavior, but kind of doing that. So it's just that's what I was saying before. It's so imperative the reframe because it pops up all day, every day. One thing that has come up so often for me in Reiki sessions when I'm doing a Reiki session, and when I say it to the client, it really impacts me as well. Is so Reiki is all, of course, based on intention, how we want to feel. And often it will be, I want to feel confident, say, for example. And what comes up is that for the client, I say, you already are confident. You're just listening to the voice that says you're not. So rather than, I think we often feel, or I often feel like I need to become something, I need to strive to be this. It's like, no, I already am this. And it reframes my view on it. So it takes away that pressure of, oh my gosh, how do I become this person? It's like, no, I am this person. That voice in my head that's telling me I'm not is just very loud. And the reframe is to not listen to that voice so much. I mean, the voice is still going to be there, but the reframe is, having compassion for it and maybe telling it to hush up
Mhm.
and to then focus on telling myself, again, just using the example of confident. I am confident already.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. So with Reiki, we set an intention before each session or before each self healing. And it's basically we're connecting with the energy or the frequency that we would like to be in or we would like to feel. And I often feel like when people, because we just basically ask people two questions like, how are you feeling? What's going on with you today? And how would you like to feel? Or what energy would you like to call in? And because we always let them lead, sometimes people get stuck and we just offer the opposite word. But most of the time, the person is choosing what energy they want. And I always feel like that's in them already. It just needs to expand. If they're wanting to feel happiness or contentment, it's like you couldn't get to that word if you didn't have a piece of it already, right? You wouldn't come up with that as the intent. It would be something else. And so it's all about like letting that energy expand or take up more room inside of you. And because the opposite energy is like it's like two ends of a magnet. So if you fill up with confidence or happiness, it's going to naturally squish out
Mhm.
the its opposite. There'll be no space for the other energy, or it'll have to change or shift.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it can be really powerful. I like that you mentioned therapy. I think that is a very lovely compliment to Reiki because therapy is so great at helping train you to re-examine your thoughts or not take your thoughts as something you always need to listen to because we have lots of different aspects to our brain and lots of different parts of us that all have different needs and different perspectives. So there's a part of us, like our soul self, which is connected to everything. It understands its value. It's not worried about the past or the future because it's eternal. And that part of us can connect to our wisdom and make great decisions and nurture all of the other parts of us and also hard to access that wisdom consciousness when you're stuck in fear or worry or overwhelm, panic, dread,
Mhm.
Um, and then we have a part of us that is always monitoring our place in the social order. Is that person mad at us? What are they thinking about me? Are these people talking about me? Because it's so important for our survival as humans, especially, going back eons, that we are part of the group. If you're not part of the group and you're alone on the savannah, you're probably going to be eaten by a lion. But we now live in a more complex society than we did then. And if one person doesn't like you, it doesn't matter because if you live in a city, there's a million more, right? You can find connection. And now we live in a very connected world. So even if you are very different from the people who are around you on a day to day level, you can find podcasts like this where people are talking about spirituality and you were like, I'm not alone. People think about energy, you know. um so and yeah, and I think like grabbing hold of those negative thoughts and just seeing if they're true, and then also is like, is it helpful? Is it a helpful thought? Is it moving you somewhere? Is it, because there could be use to the thought, the experience. It might be an honest thought, and if it's an honest thought, then it is, it's okay. But if it's a thought that's hurting you and is not true,
Mhm.
which takes us back to, like, The Work by Byron Katie. If you go to the website thework.com, you can see her process for reframing, and it's basically asking these very introspective questions and giving yourself space and time to like genuinely ask and question each thought. And the whole idea is that there's no real right or wrong to it. There's no judgment about it all. It's like, oh, let's just go in with curiosity. Is this thought you're thinking true? And then for me, it's like just that question, that's the first question. The second question is, can you absolutely know that it's true? And when you do that, for me, it's like, if it's no, it's, can I know it's true? No. Can I absolutely know it's true? No. And you're only allowed to answer a yes or a no to those two questions. You can't come in with a whole story or explanation. You have to like inquire and then answer. And for me, it very quickly falls apart because you notice within you, it's like, why am I holding a thought that's not true? That's hurting me. This thought is hurting me and it's not true. So I can let this go. I can start to let this go. And what would that look like? So the third question is, what happens within me, or how am I feeling when I hold that thought, when I believe that thought? Usually something painful and horrible is happening within you. And then what might happen, or who could I be without this thought? So then you can kind of explore, like, if I let this thought go, what would happen? And then you do these turnarounds. So you take the statement and you like flip it inside out. So you take something like, they're angry with me, to, I'm angry with me. I'm not angry with me. They're not angry with me. They're angry with them. Like, so you flip it every way. And it's sort of like, it's almost like, feels like loosening up a knot. If you've ever like dealt with like a tangle of Christmas lights or whatever, your, headphones cables get all tangled or whatever. It's like if you try to reef on it, it just tightens. But if you slowly sort of pick at it from different angles, it all sort of tumbles apart. And with that, flipping it inside out. So sometimes it's like one way to reframe on your own is to just, think about what you're thinking about. Like, what's the contents of your thoughts? And then ponder its opposite. Could the opposite be true? And if it was true, or if that lives within me somehow, and I put energy towards that, what might happen? you know? And then notice what comes up. It's like, oh, people will think you are crazy or lazy or no good or worthless. And it's like, okay, those are also painful thoughts. So I'm going to look at those. And it's like, oh, people might think I'm crazy. Is that true? Maybe yes, maybe no. Can I absolutely know every single person is going to think that I'm crazy? Actually, no, I can't. I know some people will think that I'm great. Okay, cool. So, what would happen if that had less of a power over me? And, and it's like maybe it's the voice inside me that is questioning me, that is, you know, calling me names. And I think it's like I notice ventriloquism in my head where my inner critic will speak in somebody else's tone and manner. And my inner critic will say, that person thinks this about you. This person isn't going to like this. But they didn't say that. My brain said that person isn't gonna, I hear it in their voice, but it's internal. It's an internal conversation with someone else. Like I'm projecting. And so then I just go, okay, wait a minute. That conversation didn't actually happen. That was all inside of me. And maybe they do feel that way. Maybe they will make that comment. Maybe they will be critical. But why not let the movie play instead of guessing, right? It's sort of like we press pause 1,000 times. It's like, "Oh, but what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next?" It's like, well, if you just continue watching, you'll find out, like, stop talking during the movie. That's sort of what I'll do. But, um but yeah, I find, leaning into the positive and then just becoming curious in every situation. Like, what could I learn from this? How could I take this experience, even painful ones, and learn something from it? I said I wasn't going to share because it's embarrassing, but I have a little parrot and his name is Mango, and he's really sweet, and you may have heard him on some meditations squawking in the background. He's about 21, and we know each other. He loves me, and I love him, and we trust each other. And but we moved, so it's been unsettling for everybody. And he was desperate to see my son, who's 17 and does not care about much these days. And um and so uh Mango got a little hyper. I tried to put him back in the cage and he bit my hand, and he's not bit me for decades. And he bit me exactly on an acupressure point, and I was feeling a lot of before all of this kerfuffle happened, I was feeling a lot of physical pain in my body, but he bit me exactly on large intestine 4, that point on my hand. Like, he nailed it. Exactly, and the pain in the rest of my body went away. And also, when I was reading more about I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna look into the significance of this acupressure point because it's one that I use with, to help with headaches and migraines and things like that, and I didn't know all of what it did. But energetically, the large intestine meridian this is I don't know anything about this other than what I read on the internet, so go to see a traditional medicine doctor if you want more information. But what I read on the internet said that it holds grief. And I was like, of course it does. So even just things like that, I'll be like, oh, interesting. Like, he's such an intuitive little creature, this parrot that I have. And it's such an interesting relationship. And something that looked like a breakdown in our relationship is actually like maybe he was trying to help me. Maybe he could feel this restlessness and agitation, and he was just releasing that energy directly into my large intestine for acupressure point. So, um, but yeah, so it's interesting and it's like, oh yeah, I had a very large activation of that meridian. And I do need to let things go. energetically, and I know that my physical pain in my body is linked to this grief and trauma. And throughout many different ages of and stages of my life, but definitely recently. And in the unwinding and unraveling of that, I've been letting it go gently. I've been like very, very gentle because the pattern has been so harsh and so painful. And my little bird is like, enough of this. Like, let's rip this band aid off. Like, let's get this going. Enough stagnation. So it's like the way it's described as like stagnant emotions, stagnant, particularly grief, emotions that are sort of stuck and not moving. So they got some energy moving. But
Well,
that's
and
reframe, right? Is like,
it's a reframe. Yeah.
and I sorted things out. I put some bandages on and then, gave him some little head scratches and we're good friends again. So because he doesn't hang on to anything. Animals instantly reframe because they have no real past. They don't ruminate about things. Not as much as humans do. Although we were talking about your friend's dog who holds a grudge. But even
Hmm.
then, it's not nearly long-lived as what people can do, right? Because they don't hold like, animals don't hold the story
Hmm.
active
Hmm.
forever and ever and ever in the same way. So they are open to dropping it and living in the present, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Well, this dog in particular, she's a Vizsla, and I mean, she's gotten mad at me a number of times because Vizslas are known to be sensitive. And the one time she was mad at me for probably pushing 3 days, but
which is a long time.
it is a very long
It's just
time.
an intelligent dog, right?
Gosh, yes. um, but just going back to
Mhm,
the reframe, I think it's so important to look at the big picture, which is I think essentially what you're saying, because we can get so stuck in our negative feeling and in our linear way of thinking. Often, as you said, based on the past. Well, I've had all these negative experiences before, so therefore, excuse me, what this person said to me and their intention, even though I have no idea, but in my head, their intention is negative and they want to fight. But when we can take ourselves out of the situation and yeah, look at the big picture and ask those questions, that definitely helps with the reframe. I have a girlfriend who pretty regularly she'll call me and talk about a situation that happened, and she's looking for a reframe. I don't think she is able to reframe it herself, but she's aware enough that she knows that if she talks to me, that because I am an outside perspective, it's
mhm,
easy for me to be able to see a different side to it.
mhm,
And so, yeah, so she calls me, as I say, pretty regularly to say, okay, this is what happened. Now talk to me. And so then
mm.
I will say, well, it could be this or it could be that. Or what you said, you think you know what they're thinking. You've created this narrative in your head of their intention and what they're thinking, but you really have no idea. And it could have nothing to do with you. Most
Usually, it
likely
has nothing to do with you, right? Yeah.
it generally usually has nothing to do with you, but it's um but at least this friend of mine, again, she is aware enough to know that she struggles with the reframe. And so that's when she calls me.
Yeah. Yeah, having a good friend, somebody who can could help you, therapist, Reiki, all of those are great tools. Check out the work by Byron Katie. Cognitive behavioral therapy, also really, really great. Its whole thing is about reframing and going through, there's many different what they call I think thinking errors, where we like see things in black and white or all or nothing, and they've got a lot of different thinking errors where we can get stuck in our thinking. And it's all a way of sort of gently loosening things up. So you can contact a therapist or take it into your therapist and say, I'd like to work on this thought that is getting me stuck. Often therapists will they've been trained to hear thinking errors where our minds are creating extra work for us. It's different when you're navigating a relationship or something like that, where it's like, oh no, they actually said this to me. And it was like, okay, well, that's abusive. Um, but sometimes our brains will say things that are in a much harsher tone than that person actually will, or how we're talking about ourselves to ourselves. And so having a great therapist is a awesome part of your team. And then Reiki is really good for helping to clear the energy signal out of your body.
Mm.
And once you've got that reframed thought or that new perspective, then you can bring that in as your intention in Reiki and you get this energetic boost so that it sort of clears the habitual pattern, the lingering energy signal within your body. Because each thought is a form of energy. And if we're sitting in a negative thought for a long time, our bodies are sitting in that negative energy field, which tends to degrade body systems over time rather than improve body systems because our immune system is always listening to all of our thoughts because all of our thoughts are chemicals. So all of our feelings are chemicals. And so it helps you shift the energy into where you want to be and also create an energetic stability around that new pattern. So then you're more likely to stay in that new reframed space than slide back into old modes of being. So Reiki's really great at clearing out sort of limiting beliefs and really sort of shifting the energy underneath it all. So yeah.
Mhm. And again, I just want to um, point, put a point on that. This isn't about doing a 180. Like my
Mhm.
example from earlier about being in Toronto and Calgary, I was luckily able to do a 180 in my thoughts and my feelings. But like you said earlier, this isn't about toxic positivity. This is just about like you said, thinking about our thoughts, and maybe even the reframe is like Louise Hay talks about. I am willing
Mhm.
to think about making a change. Like even that is a reframe. It doesn't have
Mhm.
to be this whole 180.
Mhm. Yeah, and you don't have to I think it's important just like if you're genuinely feeling it, if it's true and you're genuinely feeling it, then you move through that too. And Reiki's really great at meeting you where you are, right? And not pushing, there's no push or pull in Reiki. It's like it meets you where you are and sort of gently takes you to the next space of where you would like to be. But we don't have to push ourselves through that or avoid any like, oh, I should do that. Should is always shame. So we just drop should entirely. Is like you could. And I always think like reframing works best when we're sort of in a space where we can curiously ponder is like, oh, I've been seeing it this way, but is there another way that could be more helpful where I could carry this lighter, where there could be more ease and more
Mhm.
space in my life? And because it is like each moment, each experience is complex and there's lots of different parts of it. And it's really that our brain
Yeah.
sometimes gets
Yeah.
fixated on only one mode, only one part of the
Yes.
whole
Yes.
experience. But when you sort of take a eagle eye view or a divine eye view and look at the parts of it from a different perspective, it's like, oh, gratitude's in there too. Lessons are in there too. Wisdom is in there too. Happiness and joy is even in this space too, somehow, even though it's painful. And so
Yeah.
when we can see more aspects of a situation, then it sort of lightens, we don't get as stuck and we don't stay sort of looping and ruminating about that one thing that happened that we can't fix or is out of our control. And it's a way of sort of staying out of worry and staying out of
Mhm,
anger
mhm.
and sort of moving us forward on our sort of progression and our growth. Um, Stuck usually doesn't lead to growth. So, but stuck may be a part of the process. And it's also really okay to be stuck in thoughts. It's really okay. Like, how could you
Mhm.
be anywhere where you're not? But when you're ready to be unstuck, sometimes, sometimes it's just random people saying things, like I had a barista when I had lost a bunch of people in my family, and we knew this person fairly well, and they're like, "How's it going?" I'm like, "Not good." And or I'm not feeling great, and he's like, "Tell me something good." And I was like, it's like, "Oh, it's been a long time since I thought about something good because it's been so sad for so long." And
Right,
when I
right.
did, I was like, at the time, I was like, "Well, I have a little baby."
Yeah,
It's like, "Oh, yeah."
yeah.
Like, even though there's all this grief and loss, I
Mhm.
have this person in my life that is amazing. And I was like, interesting. It's complex. It's more, there's multiple things happening, creating space on multiple levels. And it wasn't about not being sad. It was about in the sadness, there's also moments of joy.
Yeah, totally. And taking your focus off of all the pain and sadness and then putting your focus on, yeah, the good things and the positive things and the things that make you happy. So that doesn't mean that the sadness goes away. Those things are still there, but it's just again that reframe like, okay, I'm not going to focus on the negative. I'll focus on the positive.
Mhm.
Um, so as you know, I have a giant chalkboard in my kitchen where
I love it.
if I hear something that really resonates, I'll write it on my chalkboard. And one thing that I've had up there for a while, which um, when we were talking about reframing, I'm like, this is such a reframe. And it is happiness is my natural state when I stop disturbing it with constant wanting and fearing. So again, I know for me, I need to strive to become happy. I need to have all these things to be happy. But when I read this, and I'm like, oh no, happiness is my natural state. I just have to stop listening to that voice, like what I had said earlier, that listening to that voice that is in fear or says you need to have X, Y, and Z in order to be happy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I love that. I love it. We could keep on talking for a billion days about this.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much for being here, Angela. It's like great to talk about this. I'm convinced reframing is imperative and it is your superpower. When we can access that state, it can drastically change the quality of our life.
Agreed.
Yeah. Amazing. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks, everyone. Check out our website for more tools and resources. And we'll put all of the links in the show notes. And until next time, bye bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for joining us on the Luna Holistic Podcast. We're so grateful that you are here. If you've got a question, we'd love to hear from you. Go to lunaholistic.com/podcast and we'll answer you in an upcoming episode. Be sure to subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And also, please rate, because you never know where your little 5 stars will go to shine light into somebody's heart today. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.